Good morning, everybody. Welcome here. All right, so I'm gonna get started. It's already 11 o'clock. I think we'll just jump straight into it. I've got a 6-inch cake here with me today, and I've pre-crumb coated, pre-coated it in the actual frosting as well. So this is just hybrid buttercream frosting. I'll have a link to all of the recipes in the description box once this goes live. What you'll also need are 3 different shades of buttercream in pink. So I have a light, a medium, and a dark. And what I basically want to do is try to keep a watercolor central on the cake, and then we're going to decorate with chocolate and some fondant decorations. I'm going to go in with a small spatula, and I'm going to start just swiping, keeping it all very central to this section of the cake. And as I swipe, I'm also flattening it all out. I'm going to move on to the medium shade. Flatten that out as well. You can blend the 2 colors. Let's just go over slightly where you have the second color. I'm going to take a bench scraper, I'm going to start smoothing that down, so that's going to become nice and flush with the cake. And the cake has been sitting in the fridge, which means the white section of the frosting will not be disturbed as I scrape through. So it'll start to look a little something like this. I'm going to go in with my darkest color now and just do little blotches here and there. The less you go around with the scraper, the less blended they'll be, so they'll be a lot more independent looking and not so elongated. I'm going to go in because I seem to have lost that lighter shade a little bit. And then from there, we can smooth it down again, and this time I'm not going to go over it too much. So I might do 1 to 2 swipes around. You might stop a quarter of the way and then scrape off, stop and scrape off, and that way you don't blend them so much. You're just flattening them against the cake. Looks awesome like that. I'm not too satisfied with that just yet. I'm going to keep adding color until I'm happy with the look in the center. So I'm going to widen it out a little bit more, going in with the medium shade here. And then I'll finish off again with the lightest shade. Okay, I'm going to flatten that out with my spatula first. And then we'll go in again with our scraper. And only swinging around 1/8 of the way around the cake. On goes the last color. Sorry, the lightest color. This is going to be the last time I go around. And that's pretty much going to conclude that watercolor centerpiece effect. And then I'm going to decorate over it with some gold painted chocolate and fondant embellishments. Might flatten it out first with the spatula just to make sure it doesn't get too elongated once we swipe across. Oops, my family's home. Don't mind the racket, it's about to come. All right, so once we have a little something that looks like this, I'm gonna start decorating. So I've got some white chocolate. Hey guys. Gonna pop this cake aside for now. And grab a mold that you like. This is like a diamond gem mold that I bought. I did wash it. It's gonna be a little bit wet, so try to avoid any water when you're working with chocolate. Chocolate and water do not mix. Got some melted white chocolate here. And I'm gonna fill in the rectangular shape gem. Give it a tap to settle the chocolate. And you might have a little bit more than you needed. That's when you get a spatula and you just go over and take off the excess. You want to pop that now into the fridge to set completely. I have one that I prepared earlier. So it looks a little something like that. Into the fridge to set completely. When it's done, it should pop out and look a little something like this. The second step is to create the fondant embellishment. So I've got a fondant silicone mold here. It's like a little lacy sort of looking thing. And you're gonna need some fondant. Because we're gonna be coloring this in gold, we want the fondant to start out a goldish color. I didn't quite have gold gel color on me, so I did use a bit of orange instead. Need that to softness. You'll also need a non-stick agent, either shortening or corn flour. Because I'm painting over this and not dusting it directly with gold dust, I'm going to use the corn flour for this project. And I'll work right off here because I've got a feeling it's going to be easiest in view and nice and high. Just going to make sure that's all in view for the moment. Perfect. And then roll this out to about 1/4 inch in thickness. You want to make sure that it's broad enough to go over your mold. So it looks a little something like this, still pretty thick. I'm going to take my mold, make sure it fits over it perfectly. Add a little extra cornstarch just for good measure, and then press it into the mold, making sure to press firmly so that it transfers that lace pattern well onto the fondant. Might give it a bit of a smooth down. And this mold has a very sharp lip made out of silicone at the top, which makes it really easy to cut. Just roll over with your rolling pin and it'll start to come undone exactly at the shape of the mold. Really, really easy. I bought this from a shop called Bake Boss. It's now, I believe it's called Melbourne Cake Supplies. You can find these online on eBay as well. Whenever you have fondant left over, always wrap it up in Glad wrap and pop it into a air-sealed container. Now that's been cut, we have a little something that looks like this, and we're going to pop it out of the mold. To do that, pop it upside down, press firmly to make sure it doesn't lift with you, and just lift one side, hold it nice and taut against the table, and then gently push out your fondant decoration. So from here, I'm going to cut it in half because I only wanted half on either side of my gem. I'm going to need a clean spatula for this. And I'm just going to cut directly in half. We have a little something now that looks like this. So I'm going to show you guys a little something that looks like this. I'm going to pop this now onto our cake and paint it in. For the paint, you will need some gold dust and some vodka. But first we're going to work on our little chocolate piece. Because it's chocolate, gold dust sticks to this pretty well as is. So what I'm going to do is just pop it onto my scraper so it doesn't mess up my little board. I'm going to dip my brush directly into gold dust. This is Champagne Gold by Cake Decorating Australia, or is it? By Creative Cake Decorating. And I'm dusting directly onto my chocolate, and that gold just transfers beautifully, if you can see there. You could paint it in as well, it's just probably going in with dry dust looks a bit better. Now that our gem is nice and gold, I'm going to pop this aside and then we'll paint in the other decorations. I'm going to do that directly on the cake. So let's bring the cake back. Find your front. I'm gonna say it'll look nice up against this section here, nice and contrasty. I'm gonna stick my gem right in the center. Make sure your hands don't have any gold dust on there, or else it's gonna transfer onto the buttercream. It's gonna mess up your whole design. So right in the center, I'm gonna pop this on. You can pop some buttercream behind the gem to make sure that it stays there, but because our frosting is still nice and wet, there's no need to. From there, I'm gonna stick on our lacy decorations. You could use just a little bit of water for this and hydrate the very back of your fondant just a little bit, make it tacky. From there, stick it right next to your gem. You could use pearls instead of this lace mold, whatever you like. Doing the same with the other side. And again, our buttercream is still nice and wet. So even if you didn't have that water, it'll still stick pretty nicely. Just making sure it's centered. Just like so. I don't like that, a little bit too low. Bring that higher. And bring this one higher as well. Okay, from here it doesn't look too shabby. We still have to add the gold paint. So I like to have a second container of the gold dust, and it's actually pretty empty. It's only got a few little pieces of dust in there. I'm gonna add in either some rosewater spirit or vodka. Anything with high acidity that evaporates quickly. So if you can't do alcohol, you could also do lemon juice or white vinegar. Works well too. Some people use oil. I personally haven't tried the oil based paint just yet. So I just use vodka because we've got plenty of that in-house. Not that I drink it, but for some reason there's always vodka in here. Give it a bit of a stir, and then we have a nice thick paint. We're going to go directly over our lace, and you can see how beautiful that color transfers very strongly. And it's just the quality of the pigment. This is literally my favorite dust to work with. Always check on the dust bottle or ask the manufacturer or the person selling the dust whether it's 100% edible or just non-toxic. Whenever you're painting cake decorations that are going to get eaten, you always want to use the 100% edible product. So that's that one painted in. Move on to the other side. And that's just one of the many ways that you can do a watercolor effect in the center of a cake rather than doing the whole cake like you normally would. Just for a little extra jazz, you could also add on edible gold beads in different shapes, in different sizes. Will look really nice. Although you probably wanted to do that before you stuck these elements on because our frosting is now setting a little. I'm going to give it a go anyway. I do have some edible gold beads down here. I'm going to go with the teeny tiny ones because I know they're going to stick much better than the larger ones would, or at least we're hoping. And I'm just going to pop directly on there. They're totally not sticking. So you would have wanted to do this before the frosting had time to set. You can probably put it on with a brush. All right, I'm just gonna accept that it's not gonna happen, but if you wanted to, you could add those edible pearls on there too. And that's the cake for today's live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it and give it a go. Super, super easy. I'll come around and see if you guys have any questions. Let's see. All right. Hello, everybody. Lots of hellos. Ah, beautiful. Okay, doesn't seem like there's many questions here. Is that white bar chocolate or candy mounts? Asks Prishildos. This is Nestle white chocolate. So just the little buttons. Okay. Thank you everybody for being here with me today. And I'll catch you guys soon. If you recreate this or something similar, please do tag me, #RosieDessertSpot, so I can see it as well on Instagram. Or send me an email with your photos. I love to see what you guys are coming up with too. Have a great day, and I'll see you again on Tuesday.